Now, this is so key. This next little bit is so key. So what it is that we can be influenced unconsciously and not realize that's happened, and then say that as though it's ourselves. Do you remember that riddle I told you? Now, that's such a classic one. We could mention that now. I said to you where, so you obviously know the answer to this now, and it's so obvious now you know the answer. But do you remember when you're like, I don't know?
I was completely, I didn't know the answer to it. So let's try this with the audience, because the chat's in here right now. So
there's and by the way, like, if you've already heard it, then obviously you're going to know it. But if you haven't, it's quite interesting. So there's a father and a son in a car crash. The father dies. The son's in a hospital, and in walks an old surgeon and says, "That's my son." Okay. Yeah. How is that possible?
How is that possible?
That's possible because the surgeon is the mother.
Okay? Yeah, I was right over my head, and I was thinking hard about that.
Yeah,
but so somehow I was conditioned to just think that a surgeon would be a man.
Here's what happens. So basically, the picture in your mind's eye, unconsciously supplying to your consciousness, has a picture as the old surgeon as a man. Okay, that's it. It's literally, it's stereotyping. The stereotyping isn't a bad thing necessarily. It's how we get around in the world. It's basically saying, oh, this is generally that. So when you walk to a door that you've never seen before, you don't spend 10 minutes working out what it is. You generalize, oh, that looks like the thing I've seen. And it all happens unconsciously. And you walk up and you open the door. But what you've got is that variable was in your unconscious mind and you wasn't aware of it. You're now aware of it. Okay?
Yeah, absolutely. And if I saw it visually, like a woman walking in, I wouldn't think, why is that woman a surgeon? Get back to the kitchen or something like that.
Exactly.
That's not my thoughts. But it just didn't cross my mind.
Well, I've asked, like, I've had interviews with scientists and like female scientists that have been surgeons who did not get that right.
There you go.
Okay. So it's not, but everyone initially feels bad that they got it wrong. But it's not. It's all it is it's stereotyping. Is that in your unconscious mind, you create this variable. Then you say this is this, and a lot of the time it's a shortcut. Okay. Now what happens is that if there's a whole school of body of science on this, and it's called narrative transportation theory, and it's literally, and then you've got all the conditioning, which is how they can create that unconsciously. So when you look at how the news reports on certain cultures and everything else, what they're doing is, if you're exposed to something so often, then it goes into the unconscious mind. And then when you're summarizing that data, that's where it's coming from. That's how a lot of prejudice gets created, by just mere exposure effect. So if you saw something happen, then every time that happened, it was, say, a cat did that, and then that thing happened next time, you think, oh, that's probably a cat.
Yeah.
Makes sense, because you're just using your experience. The problem comes is when you're not aware that experience is not accurate. Okay. Right. And that's where the media has such power, because they can make something that's not common look common, and then you'll think it's common. And this is where a lot of people's opinions are being described as being the popular opinion, or everyone thinks this way. And then what happens is, a large body of people will think that way because it's the popular opinion.
Is this like Donald Trump is a racist?
Oh yeah, they will just pound that in. I mean,
like measurably, he's not racist. I mean, if you look at his actions over decades, he's measurably not that. He's not a bigot or any of these stuff. Yeah. But it's just drilled in, and people just believe it.
Well, you see, I generally have a rule where I don't trust politicians regardless, and then I judge people on their actions. But when I was talking to that person,
I'm not making the argument that Donald Trump's a nice guy. I'm just saying he's
exactly
arguably not
you
that.
See, here's the key point, is that, and this is why I said that, because what happens is, the minute you will question someone, they automatically assume that you support the other person if you just question why they did that. And I was having a conversation with a behavioral scientist friend of mine the other day, and someone will say something about Trump, and they should say, can I ask you where you come to that? Oh, you're a supporter and blah blah. She goes, no, I'm just curious why you think that. So this guy was he's posting on his Facebook that, he posted like Tesla and saying, oh, it's the new logo is the swastika. Okay. And then I'm posting, and I'm not defending, either of the politicians overseas. And I'm going, but do you know what Starmer's doing? Because I know this guy is a big Starmer fan.
Right.
Oh, so you support Trump? I'm like, no. And he said, name one policy he's done well. Well, I can give you 7. Okay. So I literally because I know some of the policies and obviously some of them I agree with. So I listed them out. And then his response was, well, I'm not going to look at those. Not even going to bother looking at those. Well, you asked me for my evidence. Where's your evidence? Mm-hmm. So what happens is that this, and I, it was funny because he said, oh, this white supremacist and all these things. And I'm like, okay, is that what the media is conditioning people to think? Because I'd seen it a few different places. So I thought, oh, that's what they must be going for. Because what it is you create these standard terms, conspiracy theorist, et cetera. And then what you do is that term is like a ready-made piece of mud to sling at someone. So then what you do is, and this is all conditioning. So then you create the bad thing, and then over years and years of conditioning, and then you put bad thing next to person, and then the person will think the two things are the same. So look at, and if you go back through TV series, you'll just see this subtly. So narrative transportation theory is really key to all of this because it's literally the science of how to condition people to create associations. So if I said to you, why was Dirty Dancing written? Would you know? Most people wouldn't.
No, I'd only just make assumptions and then try to guess.
So the writer publicly admitted that she wrote the movie to make people more tolerant to abortion. Okay.
Whoa.
But that's the sub story. So when you look at narrative transportation theory, as an example, now all of them are bad. Like the Harvard Alcohol Project got together with ABC Studios in the 80s, and they wrote the term designated driver into Dallas and Dynasty and Cheers and all these different shows. So then that term entered the collective consciousness, and then people felt normal to say, actually, I'm driving, so I can't drink. Okay, because that's the thing. Society operates on a lot of norms. So what happens is that they will write these things in a TV series to get people to, because it's been shown that it really shifts people's opinions. So if you look back through lots of old TV series, you'll see that whenever they show a character that's a conspiracy theorist, generally they're obese or they'll be very, low IQ. They won't be able to articulate themselves. A lot of time they're
unkempt, bad, poor hygiene, things like that.
Everything. So basically every bad characteristic about a person, the character takes. So then in the back of that person's mind, conspiracy theorist, low IQ, conspiracy theorist, low IQ. Okay. So then when something comes up and the media goes, oh, that's a conspiracy theory, they automatically think anyone that thinks that is stupid and therefore you mustn't think that way. And that all happens outside awareness.
So it's all pre-triggered. It's set up like a elaborate Rube Goldberg machine, and it just sets off all these things in your head, and then you just come to a conclusion automatically.
Yes. So, and it's one of the most powerful things. So you look at any standard movie, they will use a series of scenes to get you to like the hero and hate the villain. And they do a very good job. So you'll literally feel, I mean, you look at the Mission Impossibles, and I can point out the scenes where there's a scene in one of them where
the guy's got a scar across his eye, or
but there's a woman, there's a female. Yeah, there's a scene in where they're in France and they're breaking someone out, and then there's a female police officer, and she spots them, and then Ethan Hunt saves her life, and then he does all this really sort of protective things, and you literally can feel the warmth towards the character. Because here's what's key. You can't consciously decide that. When you're seeing things, like if you saw, a burger drop into a piece of mud, like you can't decide to feel not disgusted. Like you feel disgusted, like it's automatic response. And that's where the media has so much power, but people don't realize. And in fact, most people believe that they can't be influenced, and this is one of the most dangerous things, because I know I can, so I'm very careful about what I watch. And when I talk to behavioral scientists, they generally won't watch the news. If they want to find out what they're being misinformed about, they read it.
Thanks for watching. If you want to see more clips like that, make sure you're subscribed to the channel. The link is right here. If you want to see it live as it happens, make sure you subscribe to the Clyde Do Something YouTube channel. The link is right there. We'll see you in the next one.